De Beers, once the world's largest and most powerful player in the global diamond industry, is now being sold for, well, next to nothing. The company that once controlled 90% of the world's diamonds industry has lost over 95% of its value in just 15 years. And considering what it once was worth, it is now in the process of being sold for basically nothing. But somehow the company's founding family, the Oppenheimers, knew exactly when to sell at the peak of De Beers' value and what to sell at exactly the right time, ensuring that they saved it in dynasty and walked away with billions. This was no coincidence. In today's video, we are going to expose a very shadowy political network from behind the scenes that helped the Oppenheimers orchestrate the perfect escape plan to walk away from South Africa with all of their money intact while De Beers goes to ruins. You see, in 2011, the Oppenheimer family sold their entire 40% stake in De Beers for just over $5 billion or just under 40 billion rands at the time. Accounting for inflation, however, the Oppenheimer sale would be worth just under $8 billion or 130 billion rands in 2026. Today, however, only 15 years down the road, the entire company, the entire 100% is being sold for just over $1 billion or around 17 billion rands. This means that the estimated value of the company as a whole has declined from approximately 12.5 billion in 2011, or about 20 billion in today's money, to just over 1 billion today. In inflation-adjusted terms, this represents a staggering decline of around 95%. In simple terms, since the Oppenheimer family sold their stake in De Beers, the company has lost virtually all of its value. And they certainly timed that sale and that escape plan perfectly. But was this simply a stroke of either luck or genius? Or did they actually cause the decline of their own company after exiting it? What caused the Oppenheimers to actually sell their stake at such an immense profit right before the company's collapse began, while the company was worth so much, and while this company looked like, well, a diamond mine? Stay tuned, because in today's video we are going to expose the truth about how the Oppenheimer family was, even long before 2011, secretly leveraging their exit strategy with some of the world's most influential political role players on the African continent behind closed doors, and in the process left their buyer with a dud. The Oppenheimer dynasty began with Ernest Oppenheimer, a Jewish diamond broker who arrived in South Africa at the height of the country's mineral revolution at the start of the 20th century. In 1917, backed by British and American capital, he founded Anglo American to exploit the immense wealth buried beneath the Witwatersrand in South Africa. He then moved into diamonds, secured control of Cecil John Rhodes's De Beers empire in 1929, and built a mining conglomerate whose influence stretched across South Africa. Gold, diamonds, coal and various other strategic minerals was part of his empire. Under his son, Harry Oppenheimer, Anglo American and De Beers became almost synonymous with South African big business, an economic empire powerful enough to influence the broader direction of the entire country and its politics. Its influence stretched far beyond just its impact on the South African economy, however. From the middle of the 20th century, the Oppenheimers actively shaped South Africa's politics. Harry Oppenheimer ended up being one of the fiercest and most influential opponents of the National Party and its leader Hendrik Verwoerd, and specifically his policy of separate development. This was not because of any real commitment to the so-called racial justice aspect that we talk about so much today on the part of the Oppenheimer family, but only because they wanted to use cheap black labor to maximize their own profits, and separate development and the way that it was structured prevented them from doing so. This was the only reason why they opposed separate development under Hendrik Verwoerd. They therefore welcomed the migration of millions of black workers from all over Africa and from their own homelands, and even from countries all the way up to Kenya to the north into the Witwatersrand and other historically white areas where there were only white people living at that time. Because Verwoerd sought to restrict this influx and create more employment for black communities within their own homelands, Oppenheimer used every means at his disposal to undermine Verwoerd and his policies. You see, control subsequently passed to the third generation under Nicky Oppenheimer, but by the beginning of the 21st century, the family was gradually withdrawing everything it had from its historic mining empire and from the country where it made its millions, or its billions actually. At the time, they would have had first-hand knowledge of the technology which posed a potential long-term threat to the sustainability of the diamond mining industry. After all, De Beers itself had manufactured many synthetic diamonds through its subsidiary Element 6 for decades and possessed unparalleled technical knowledge of the field of actually making fake or synthetic diamonds. The decisive moment of the escape came in 2011. Just a few years before the global synthetic diamond industry really began to boom. In that year, the Oppenheimers agreed to sell their remaining 40% stake in De Beers to Anglo American. The transaction increased Anglo American's stake from 45% to 85% and brought more than 8 decades of Oppenheimer control over the world's most famous and biggest diamond company to an end. Despite the fact that the family patriarch Ernest Oppenheimer had founded Anglo American in 1917, by 2011 the family had already sold virtually all of its shares in this publicly owned corporation. And so, 2011 ultimately marked the end of a mining empire that had begun with one immigrant diamond broker and within 3 generations produced the wealthiest and most influential family that the African continent had ever seen. Today, Nicky Oppenheimer is still the second richest man of South African descent, behind only Johan Rupert. But the family's fortune was only preserved by selling De Beers at exactly the right time. But while on the surface this may appear like a stroke of genius or very good luck, the reality is that the entire episode was far more orchestrated by the Oppenheimer family than meets the eye. And believe it or not, this move was about more than just the money. To understand how the Oppenheimers managed to walk away with billions at the very last minute of De Beers, we have to turn our attention to a foundation the Oppenheimer family quietly established in Johannesburg in 2004 already. This was the Brenthurst Foundation. This policy institute was named after the Brenthurst estate, the family's historic residence in Parktown. But unlike other think tanks that often rise to prominence after years or decades or even centuries of dedicated research, the Brenthurst Foundation somehow immediately enjoyed the audience of nearly every single government in Southern Africa, including not only the ANC here in South Africa, but also more importantly, the foundation enjoyed direct access to Botswana's highest levels of government as well. In 2005, the Botswana leader President Festus Mogai's government established the Business and Economic Advisory Council to formulate a strategy for economic diversification and sustainable growth in this country. 2 Brenthurst Foundation directors, Greg Mills and Jeffrey Herbst, were appointed to the small official advisory body alongside senior government officials, central bank and business figures all throughout the country. And so, since 2005, the Oppenheimer family, through the Brenthurst Foundation, was directly responsible for shaping the economic policy from within a presidentially sanctioned council in a country whose entire economic success was largely dependent on their own De Beers diamond industry. You see, Brenters was, at the time, advising African governments on taxation and on mining policy and on investment and economic policy, even while these very governments were responsible for regulating, taxing and negotiating lucrative mining agreements with the exact same companies that were behind this Brenters Foundation, in which the Oppenheimer family held enormous financial interests. Jonathan Oppenheimer, Nikki's son, who co-authored the original Brenters initiative with his father in 2003 and served on its international advisory board, was asked in December 2005 whether the foundation could become an instrument of shadow policy capture in countries where the family had commercial interests, especially in the diamond industry. His astonishing response: "What's wrong with policy capture if it's good policy?" Interestingly, the Mail and Guardian for some reason removed all records of that 2005 interview, but it has been partially preserved for us through an academic article by Professor Peter Vail from Rhodes University already back in 2007. After citing this shocking response from Oppenheimer, Professor Vail simply comments this, and I quote, "Building democracy, as we have recently learned in Iraq, can be a fickle business easily manipulated by special interests." Vail's words proved to be absolutely pathetic when it concerns the Oppenheimers. Selling De Beers was politically sensitive, particularly on Botswana, and required extensive government and stakeholder management. It may have been good policy for the Oppenheimers, but the question remains, who was actually benefiting from this, and was it actually serving the interests of the Tswana people in Botswana, or only the interests of the Oppenheimer family? In the end, Brenthurst's strategic relations with key political figures in Botswana would have certainly helped the Oppenheimer family depart at just the right time, leaving Botswana as a country economically vulnerable, and we talked about this on this channel already, the fall of Botswana, the economic fall of Botswana, the fact that Botswana went from one of the wealthiest countries in Africa to a country struggling to even keep bread on the table for most of its citizens, and all of this after the Brenters Foundation and the Oppenheimers did what they had to do to preserve as much of their own personal wealth as possible. And so instead of having billions tied to a politically exposed, increasingly vulnerable diamond company, it obtained the $5.1 billion in liquid capital, while Brenthurst maintained immense influence in African governments still. But the fact that this strategic move was about more than just money is highlighted by the fact that they continue to leverage this political influence well beyond selling all of their own financial interests in these African countries beyond 2011. In the years that followed, the Brenters Foundation continued to arrange private gatherings where African opposition politicians, former presidents, journalists, Western diplomats and security figures met in secret. You see, for example, for nearly a decade, the foundation supported the opposition party of Hakainde Hichilema before he became Zambia's president in 2021. This allegedly included funding, campaign advice, transport, political communications, and very importantly, also drafting his economic policies. According to a recent Global Witness report, the Oppenheimers allegedly used First Quantum Minerals, a Canadian mining company closely connected to Brenthurst. In exchange for their financial support of the campaign to establish a more liberal government in Zambia, the Oppenheimers managed to divert hundreds of millions of US dollars in mining revenue away from Zambia's heavily indebted economy and population and into their own hands. But more than this, here too the Brenters Foundation has been active in getting politicians to implement their desired economic policies so as to serve Oppenheimer mining interests, just as the Oppenheimers had been playing their hand in South Africa long before the ANC even took over here. You see, locally here in South Africa, the Brenters Foundation also financed the DA leader John Steenhuisen Strips, and before the 2024 election, it also conducted political polling, convened opposition and civil society leaders linked with Western organizations, And after the 2024 election, the research director at the foundation, Ray Hartley, admitted that they worked behind the scenes with major political parties such as the ANC, both, and the DA to set up the Government of National Unity, and they were the organization that had the biggest hand in this absolute dismal failure we call this GNU today. You see, here at the Willem Petscher Group, we never shy away from investigating these stories that no one else dares to cover, and even stories that the mainstream media seems determined to cover up, as we've seen with the Mail and Guardian, even removing every shred of evidence of what we were talking about here. We know that the influence the Brenthurst Foundation has exhibited over the Southern African country's political landscapes over the past decade and a half prior to being shut down just over a year ago. So, if you want to support and further the work that we do on this channel, you can become a paying member or a patron of our channel by simply following these easy steps on the banner below, and we will thank you very much for that, as we desperately need you in order to continue our work, pay everyone's salaries, and so on. You see, the Oppenheimer's Brenthurst Foundation was shut down in July last year, with the official explanation being that longtime director Greg Mills was retiring. But there were a number of highly unusual features that characterized this sudden shutdown. For one, the closure was highly abrupt and strangely initially announced by departing employees rather than through any formal public statements. Upon closure, the foundation also removed or disabled most of its social media content. And finally, the closure came only 3 months after a highly controversial private mining forum in Zambia, where representatives from the foundation met with President Hichilema, ministers, diplomats, and multinational mining executives without Zambian legislators or representatives of the state mining investment company present at this meeting. And so, as De Beers is now being sold at less than 5% of what it was worth just 15 short years ago when the Oppenheimers sold their stake, the Oppenheimers, through secret meetings, high-level political connections, and policy influence, orchestrated a plan to get away with billions of dollars from the African continent by perfecting the art of blurring the line between philanthropy and advancing their own commercial interests in government. In a recent video on this channel, we highlighted the ways in which the British Empire laid the foundations for Oppenheimer's later alliance upon cheap black labour in South Africa, exploiting this cheap black labour in order to become the richest man the African continent had ever seen, by completely demographically transforming the country at the start of the 20th century. If you would find that sort of information interesting, you can check it out by clicking on this link appearing on your screen right now. And if you watch this video all the way until the end, I want to thank you for the gift of your time. If you're not a member of the Willem Petscher Group yet, please become one by following these easy steps and support us in our mission to fight for a brighter future for ourselves and our children in South Africa. And let me know in the comment section if you watch the video all the way. I want to see who of you are the ones that do it every time. Goodbye and God bless.